So thank you for joining me, Kyle. My name is Tyler Cuddebeck. This is the How Do I Get That Job podcast, episode 4. I'm here with Kyle Grappone. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
Awesome. Youth motivational speaker and book author. You can check him out at kylegrappone.com. Kyle, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself for the audience, please?
Sure. So I went to college, Mount St. Mary College, class of 2010. So that was 9 years ago now. I majored in public relations. And a couple of years in, I realized that office jobs were not necessarily for me. That doesn't mean that I don't want an office job. It just means that working in an office, working in a queue really isn't all for me. I mean, I can't just do that during the day and then be satisfied. So really what I started to notice a few years ago was, I noticed probably a couple of years into working that a lot of the people I worked with seemed to be very unhappy with their jobs. They seemed to be very dissatisfied with the type of person that they would become and this career they had built. And, they just seemed to wish the week away. They were always waiting for Friday. They were always kind of, saying, oh, I can't wait till it's Friday, and just kind of trying to escape into the weekend. And I always found this odd because you spend a lot of time at your job, and you spend a lot of time and energy and resources, and it has a big hold over your day-to-day and really your life. And I think it's crazy that some people spend 40 years just trying to survive 5/7 of their week, because that's a lot of time. So I began to look into this. I began to do a lot of research. And what I came to realize after talking to over 100 college graduates is that students are not prepared for this part of life. They're not prepared for being an adult and working full time and everything that goes into that. They don't really understand what that means, what that entails. And I think what happens is that they don't necessarily either take high school and college seriously, or if they do, they're not really preparing themselves accordingly. They don't always do the best research. I've talked to students who still are somewhat unhappy in their careers because they never did any research. They made a decision on what job they wanted before doing any type of research. And when they got into it, they realized it's not really the job they want. It's not what they thought it would be. But, 1 year turns into 5, and before you know it, you're married with kids in a house, and you need that job.
Yep.
And you can't necessarily change jobs so quickly. So about 2 years ago, maybe a little less, I started just looking into this because I've always been a very good speaker. I've always been somebody who presents himself very well, been a very good communicator, good delivery. And again, I'm not necessarily bragging, but I think it's very important to understand what your skills are.
For sure.
If you can do something and you're presenting the value that you can bring to the table, I don't think that's necessarily bragging. So I realized that these were my skills and this is what I was good at. And I realized at the same time that I want to be doing more than just an office job. So for me, I got into motivational speaking simply as a way to begin this process. I basically wanted to speak to high school and college students and get them to understand that so many people who used to be in their shoes are now living lives of dissatisfaction. I'm not saying that everyone is miserable, but a lot of people don't like what they do for a job. And it's because they weren't prepared for it. And now they're kind of stuck. And the other problem is that as a society, we are really kind of conditioned to dislike our jobs. A lot of people, work is work, and you're supposed to be unhappy, and everybody complains about it, and all these type of stuff. And it's just crazy to me because I'm not necessarily saying that you're going to be happy at work, but I do believe that everybody has a passion inside of them. And I think everybody has something that, even though it might be difficult and there's always going to be bad and stressful days, that if they were doing that type of job and building towards the type of person they wanted to become, I think they'd be have a lot more satisfaction, a lot more joy, and that would lead to a happier life overall.
Yeah, I can't
the problem
agree
is that, these people who hate their jobs, also are unhappy in life, and that unhappiness is spilling into, the different types of, issues that we're seeing. Is a lot of people are unhappy. They're stressed financially. They're stressed, emotionally, and whatnot. So that's really how I got into it. But it's interesting because, what I am now 2 years later Like, I identify as a youth motivational speaker, but that is really one part of the bigger picture that I have become and I have built. And I am now a published book author, like I said. I'm also a college student coach, a career year academy. I teach online courses at a school called OutSchool. And I'm currently doing a research paper with a college professor, and we are interviewing college graduates to understand what skills they weren't prepared for. As far as anybody who wants to speak, I would say the number one important thing is not whether or not you're a good public speaker, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy, but that's something that can be taught and can be learned. But what can't be taught and learned is passion for a certain subject.
For sure.
Because if you're going to speak professionally about a subject, you need to live and breathe that subject. You need to understand it. And you need to be passionate about it. Because, for example, I'm also a marketing professional. It's not really what I advertise too much because that kind of runs itself. But I wouldn't go and speak about marketing because I'm not as passionate about it. I mean, that's just me as a person. So if you want to be a professional speaker, I mean, the first thing I would say is to figure out what do you want to speak about, and figure out a way, whether it's taking online courses or speaking to other professionals, and understand what you want to speak about, and then what are you really going to speak about. Because you can say, oh, I want to help kids. That's way too broad, because there's 100 ways to help kids. You could say, oh, I want to talk about, women's rights. Again, that is also pretty broad. So, people are going to want to know, well, what are you talking about? And you're going to have to break that down into different types of keynotes or different types of speeches. But the other thing to be prepared for is that, I've spoken a number of times at schools, and they've been basically for free to build the brand. And it's, a lot of people, if they're going to pay you to speak, they want to know, where have you spoken?
Yep.
So if you're going to become a speaker, understand that, you're not quitting your day job anytime soon. It's a lot of rejection. It's a lot of people not answering your emails. And it's a lot of kind of baffling. I've reached out to a number of people and offered to speak to a small audience for free. And instead of saying yes and getting it done very, very quickly, they say no, because they say we're all good. We've hired enough speakers. And that's lunacy, because I'm not asking to be hired. I'm just, I'm trying to help you, and you help me with a testimonial and a video afterwards. And that's that. But, it unfortunately doesn't really work that way. And you have to just kind of keep pushing through the prospecting process. And I mean, biggest thing I would say is that if you want to start speaking, have a very open mind. I'm thrilled with where I am for 2 years, but I haven't quit my day job. I mean, I'm still in marketing. I still do different things, and I probably will for a number of years, just because to be a professional speaker, and it also depends on where you want to speak. I mean, if you want to speak to students, like I'm never going to make, 10 grand, 20 grand at a speaking engagement, because I'm speaking to students. I'm speaking at events that don't have that type of money. And I've made that decision, and I'm okay with that because it's what I believe in. There's people that make 50K just for speaking. That's not going to happen for me. So that's why I have to pursue these other things. But, keep your day job, because it's something I learned. I've wanted to get rid of it before, but I can't. Let that pay your bills. Let that build your financial future and pay into your retirement and support your family. And then, as you do this, you keep making money. For example, when I get a new student for my coaching, I put that money away. And at some point when I get enough, I think when I reach about 10 students, I'm probably going to buy new equipment to record better and whatnot. And there's an event I want to go to in November. And there's a lot of things that pop up. That you may not necessarily realize, because when you think about being a motivational speaker, you think about just standing on the stage and doing your speaking. And there's so much more to it that I think people need to be prepared for. I would say, look at your network, look at your contacts and who you know. Because there's going to be some opportunity somewhere where somebody will bring you in to speak. And the thing is that don't think about where it is. Don't think about how many people it's in front of. Just think of it this way. Because if you know somebody and they tell you, okay, you can come speak to my high school class of 20 kids, Don't think of it as, oh, I'm only speaking to 20 kids. You go and you crush it, because after you crush it, first and foremost, you can put on your social media channels, I spoke at blah, blah high school. You don't have to tell people how many people it was. You spoke at that high school, and that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Then you get a testimonial, maybe 2. You put that on your website. If you have a couple bucks and you work with a graphic designer, he can make that look really nice and make it look professional for not a lot of money. Have somebody record you, so it's a couple videos, and bam, you have your first booking. Even if it was in front of 15 people, it doesn't matter, because now you've been booked once.
If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, then please like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell notification to join the notification squad so you never miss any of our videos. We put out videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday covering a wide variety of topics revolving around the college admissions and job search processes. If you like this video more than a share and subscription can show, then check out our merch store. The link is in the description below. The proceeds from our merch store allows Let's Go to College to provide free and at-cost college and career help to low-income, first-generation, and at-risk students. We really appreciate your support, and so do the students.